pledge allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do you have a public comment? Ms. Rebecca Zai? I believe we will allow 5 minutes. With Mr. Martin? Thank you.
First thing I want to bring up is just a question. I know you guys are talking about opening the district up to inter-district transfers. Are you talking about opening the district up to homeschool students being allowed to participate in UIL sports?
We're not allowed to respond, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's something I would like an answer to in a future meeting. So if you would put it on a future agenda, I would appreciate it.
With the board's blessing, I can answer that. Those are two different policies.
They are.
They are. So the answer right now is we're only looking at opening up to inter-district transfers. We're not discussing allowing homeschool students to participate in UIL. But again, those are two separate policies.
They are two separate, completely separate policies. I acknowledge that and respect that. But you're talking about potentially opening it up for inter-district transfers, which I think is an awful idea, personally, as a parent. But as you're talking about that, I'm asking you to talk about whether or not you're also going to consider opening up the district to homeschool students participating in UIL sports that live in the district. Because you have students that live here that may be homeschooled that could participate just as well as somebody who doesn't live in the district. So I'm asking that you consider that if you're going to consider opening the district up to inter-district transfers. I still think inter-district transfers is an awful idea. Nobody else around here does it, and there's a reason for that. You don't get any money off of it. You really don't. Now, the next topic I want to bring up is I know that later in your private sessions you're going to be talking about teacher contracts. And I have very strong feelings about 2 middle school teachers who I do not believe their contracts should be renewed because they both already practically have a foot out the door and neither one of them is teaching this year. When you have your honors English teacher asking the kids, I'm not asking for answers, I'm asking you to discuss this when y'all talk about your contracts later.
Right, but we can't disparage teachers, we can't disparage staff.
Okay, so without naming teachers, can I still discuss this topic?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when you have a teacher who tells the students, finish this, if you get a 70 on it, I'll put 100 in the grade book. And then, when everybody's done, y'all can go outside and proceeds to walk out of the classroom, that teacher has a foot out the door and should not be teaching. They should not be here in this district because they don't have a vested interest in taking care of these students. This has been going on all year. This is not the first time I brought it up. It was part of my level 2 grievance, where the teacher sits in the classroom and puts their feet up on the desk and watches videos on their computer or their phone. There are teachers that are asking their students and giving them a graded assignment on who they pick for their Sweet 16 bracket. Please, tell me how that has anything to do with the curriculum they should be teaching in this classroom. Those teachers should not be in this district. You need to be hiring teachers that have a vested interest in taking care of these students to help prepare them for their future. That's all I have to say.
Moving on to item number 4, superintendent report. We have our monthly financial reports. And Ms. Boyd, the floor is yours.
We'll start on page 4 with the statement of positions. And this just shows kind of where we are at with our interest in Lamar and in Techstar. I did move some money back to Techstar for the 2023 bond, which was the new round of money we received. they contacted me the other day and asked if I would mind moving $15,000 or $15 million back from Techstar, and they matched what Techstar was giving us. So I went ahead and moved that back. And now since then, Techstar's dropped a little bit, so we're actually making a little more money with Lamar on that money than we would have been over at Techstar. I would move it all back over there, but Lamar can't hold it all right now. So. And then the inventory of investments is on the next page. It just kind of compares the previous month to the current month. Techstar's interest is kind of holding steady at that 5.3, and then with that bump on that other bond money, we went up from the 5.4 to 5.45 with Lamar on our bond funds. With our general operating funds, we're still with them. It's just the 5.17. So. Page 6 is our monthly budget summary. We're still rolling in a little bit of our property tax money, but that's kind of slowing down. But we are where we should be at this time of year. That was general operating debt service, the same. We'll have one more round of payments out of that account, so we will be where we thought we would be at the end of the year with our debt service payments. And then food service, she had said the other day that she was wasn't getting research on many kids eating school lunch as she had thought, but we're still in a good position with her because she had a pretty hefty fund balance and a little bit of money left that we needed to spend down anyway. So. Page 8 is property tax collections, and that just shows the percentage of where we are on collections. And the prior year, that kind of picks up this time of year where everything else kind of slows down. So most of that will come in now and through the summer. And that's all I have this month.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd. Continue on to item 4B, communications. So page 33 is our enrollment update. You can see we held steady from last month to this month. We're still at 1,144 students. A little shift on which campus they're on, but total enrollment has stayed the same. We have bond construction update. Please, Joe. And the pictures that are with that, again, page 34.
I'll start with the high school since I just came from there. We've got the last 2 trucks that are being poured out right now. So we have all the grade beams completed for areas B and C. So we got that in time before we got the testing coming this week. We got the windows in. So they're going to finish up with the balance of the masonry in there, and we had already had our inspections for the interior, so we're going to start closing that up and putting the second side on the drywall. So that's progressing along. For the middle school, we just finished up with the last of replacement, so all the concrete for the middle school is in place earlier in the week, and the balance of last week, we had all our inspections, which is our plumbing, rebar. We had everything finished up. We had our Stego, which is that yellow plastic that you had. We had that inspected prior to the rebar, and we just poured it out just right now. We're just in the process of finishing it right now, so we're going to do some saw cutting on it. So those 4 buildings over there are moving quite well. The elementary school, it's continuing to go. We've got all our ICF up in place. We have all our joists in. We're going to start doing the decking on the storm shelter. We've moved through the balance of erecting all our steel for A, B, and C. The exterior sheathing, which is our studs and our Gaines glass, are going up in combination with all of our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So we have all of that running through. We're in the process of staging our inspections as we progress through there. Preston is in place. We have another 300-yard placement scheduled for Thursday. Probably going to have 2 of them back-to-back since we're kind of constrained with our time limits. So we're going to make 2 big pours, one on Thursday and one on Friday. So it should hit the balance of that ring road, and that'll just leave us one small parking area and then the one tie-in behind the homeowners. So we're gonna do that probably between 9 a.m. and working hours, so don't disturb any of those back in there. That building's coming together, and if you want, we can try to plan on doing a walkthrough once we get something cleared up, and get some areas cleared up for you guys. So
Absolutely.
you have to put some eyes on it too. So it's progressing. I mean, it's moving along quite well. Any specific questions, concerns?
Probably should ask the question earlier in the week so we prepare, but maybe next month would be nice to know just on, I mean, I know the scheduled completion days on elementary, but kind of how things, in your opinion, I mean, it's hard to estimate exactly when things are going to be done.
Yes, sir.
But I know we talk about where we're at, what we're doing, and money-wise, but any idea, just how we see from a time completion, just our best.
On one particular building or just overall?
You can do it next month during, like by campus, again, really middle school and high school, even if you can, by building, that'd be great.
Yeah, I can put something together.
Okay.
Quickly, I mean, the goal is to get the high school, middle school turned over before we get back in there. A lot of the equipment, kitchen equipment's already procured, it's been procured, it's in storage. So, with the way the permits went out, we had the ability to make sure that everything's stored. So we have all the pieces for the puzzle right now. So it's a matter of putting it back in and just working through logistically moving the teachers, the educators out so we can get back in there and clear some of that stuff up through the summer on that. And then the elementary ballpark right now, it's probably in the year, first of the year, January, something like that. So we're going to try to progress on that. But I'll get a more detailed one.
That's fine. I didn't give you a heads up on it, but
No, we're good. Well,
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you. That'll move us up to principal reports. Ms. Klotch, ladies first.
I'm doing both tonight, elementary and middle school.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, guys, so I'll start with the elementary.
We love you, Miss March.
Okay, so at the elementary, the overall attendance rate is at 95.8, which is great, drastically better than last month, so that's awesome. All grade levels increased their attendance rate this month, and Ms. Keller wanted me to share that they're super excited about that, and they'll be hosting that Attendance Matters Day to celebrate. For her social and emotional wellness goal, Pre-K is hosting the April Tigers Helping Tigers project. Their project will be focusing on collecting new stuffed animals for Gunner first responders to give to children involved in crisis situations, which is really cool. Innovative learning goal, first grade is working on their animal research project and will be growing their knowledge of animals on their field trip to the Dallas Zoo this Thursday. And then exciting things happening at the elementary. There was a lot of chirping happening in first grade last week. The chicks hatched. Third and fourth grade rocked the STAR reading test last Thursday. They'll take STAR math test on Thursday, April 25th. And the students are looking forward to upcoming field trips over the next few weeks. And then for the middle school, our attendance rate is also up quite a bit. It's been really good this cycle. We're up at least a point in every grade level, so that's exciting. Our growth mindset and building capacity goal was, our goal setting is kind of starting to be concluded. We have our end of the year MAP testing in May, and then we have our STAR testing, obviously, that's taking place right now and will end in April. So what our hope is that in reading and ELA, those students, and then some science students also in science classes, will see that beginning, middle, and end growth that's been happening this school year. So we're excited to share that with kids. We didn't do a parent printout this year like the elementary did, which is something that we're kind of thinking about for next year, just to share that with parents and maybe do an end of the year one where they can see the growth throughout the year. So that's exciting for our kids. Science is tomorrow and U.S. history is on Wednesday. So they've been working super hard. Teachers and students obviously have been preparing for this, so it's good. Ms. Hogan, also our counselor, could not sing her praises enough. She's done an amazing job with testing. Classroom news, Miss Morrison took her class outside on Friday to teach them about the distance between the planets. I haven't gotten to post it yet on Facebook, but one of our aides was in that class and sent me a text message of all the pictures, and she's like, I'm just completely in awe of Miss Morrison and this lesson that she put together. But she walked them around and they plotted the different spots in the field over kind of north of the indoor. They kind of walked all around that area and plotted the space between planets. So it was really cool for the kids, especially after the eclipse excitement. They were really excited. Our second dance happened and it was a hit again. It was really fun. We did a spring fling and the kids had a good time. I don't know if any of you guys saw pictures, but we had a lot of very fun attire at this particular dance. The boys did a really good job. It was funny. Band competed in the UIL competition. Mr. Wynn was super proud of the kids. They worked very hard. It wasn't exactly the results that they had wanted, but I just told them over and over, this is a spot to grow from, and they sounded incredible. So they really should be very proud of all their hard work. That's a very hard competition, so they did a great job. Okay, that's it. Thank y'all.
All right, unfortunately, our attendance rate did not climb any. It's kind of hovering about where it's been, but at the high school level in the spring, we know it's a struggle, especially, and it's a good battle that we have because we have so many kids that are involved in something, but it's a battle when they get in at 10:30 and 11 to show up the next morning and really push. And so we're trying to work through all that stuff. Coach Egger's still on top of our makeup hours, but ninth grade was at 94.69, 10th grade 92.86. 11th grade 93.86, and then our seniors were 92.87. They kind of get to this point in the year, and it's they think school's over, but we're pushing to the end, and we're going to keep fighting to get them there. Testing, we had our English 1 and English 2 tests last week. I think Ms. Lee, Coach Winchell, I think they had prepared those kids very well. There was a lot of confidence in the halls. I didn't see a kid or talk to any kid that didn't feel good about it. So I really feel good about those tests. We have our biology test is tomorrow. We have U.S. history on the 18th and Algebra 1 on the 23rd. Kids and teachers have been working tirelessly to ensure that they have the information needed, and then they felt good going in. The ones that we felt that we've identified through different assessments throughout the year, benchmarks, whatever, they've been getting some remediation during Tiger Time, and those teachers have done a good job of identifying those kids and pulling them in. So we're hoping that we have you always hope for a perfect pass rate, but I think we're going to be close. So classroom news, I thought this was cool what Miss McDonald's doing on our push to the biology test tomorrow. She's done a 9-day EOC review. It was designed and broken down into the readiness standards, the TEKS. Throughout the year, she's had students make foldables that go into their composite notebooks, and they teach, explain, show, and use the readiness standards. These are used in place of taking your everyday lecture style notes because kids' attention span is not, they'd rather be doing something with their hands than they're listening to somebody for 45 minutes. So we don't have that structure. The foldables are a mixture of vocabulary, images, and comparison notes. These foldables are in their EOC section of their binder. So at the end of the year, the kids take out the foldables and separate them according to the 9-day review. The students are then able to go through the review presentation and attach the material they created and learn with. So they're breaking that down by day, going back and reviewing and hitting all those standards and TEKS that they've learned throughout the year. Happenings and victories, which I could list 45 different things we got going on. We got boys and girls golf teams, both won the district. They're in Bullard right now competing. I got news. The boys are sitting in third. I didn't get word on the girls yet, but the boys are sitting in third going in tomorrow, and we'll make a push for that. Tennis teams have continued to excel. They're in invitational meets, but they are competing well. You go on and look. We have several teams that are first and boys doubles and mixed doubles, and so they've been playing well. If you've been keeping up with our one-act play, Miss McGoy, it's been tremendous. If you haven't got a chance to see it, the next one's our regional, which is in Tyler. So it's a ways out there, but it's unbelievable what she does. Like I said, I know I bragged about her last time, but it's just a fun show to watch. They've done a really good job. They won I say won district. I tell everybody we won district. You don't really know. You just advance if you first say we won the district. And then when we got to area, they advanced as well. And so I think they got a good shot in regionals. We advanced from there, then we're in the state. So it's exciting. I think that one's going to be one of our next state champions, I think. So looking forward to that. Let's see. Both track teams won the district. We have many athletes that went on to compete in the area track meet, which the girls won the area track meet. The boys finished second. Athletes that advanced are going to compete this week in the track meet and the regional track meet at White House. The horse judging team placed second in the area competition. They're also leaving Thursday to go to the state competition, so we're going to have a send-off for them at about 12:05 in front of the high school. It'll be exciting for those kids. We took 14 kids to UIL Academics. We are pushing. We hope that number grows. We've got some more participation. Some teachers have really jumped on board specific areas, and they came back and they're like, hey, Mr. Bart, we need to do this for next year. We need to do this. So we're really going to focus on growing that number because we have the kids. We have the type of kids that can go and win. And so Miss McDonald, Miss Beavers, Miss Harlan, they got back, they were excited, and so they're already putting a plan together going forward. But the 14 kids we took competed their tails off. Once we get there and get the numbers, we're going to win that too. Let's see. Our number sense team to play second. Current issues was 12. Calculator applications was third. Our chemistry, we had 2 individuals, one placed second and fifth. Our science overall was fourth. Our math was third. And then we had one in the spelling individual that finished sixth. So kids really competed well in those. Baseball is off to a 24-0 record. They're still hammering away. Very impressive. Softball's 20-8. They got 2 important games this week. They win those, they'll win the district as well. So all those kids are competing. Also, our Gunner High School band went to the UIL competition and earned sweepstakes. So they were very excited and very fired up. So they did a great job at the UIL competition. A couple of upcoming events. We have our state championship ring ceremony at Tiger Stadium, April 22nd at 6 p.m. So that is open to everybody. So if you can, please make that. Come show support for those kids. And then we have prom, April 27th, 7:30 at Bellaterra. And like I always say, check Facebook. You'll find a lot more. So, thank y'all.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Moving on to item number 4, it's page 37 in your binder. I sent you with the rest of the board books some inter-district transfer information. So the first part of that page just gave you our total enrollment. And I'll go through the current year, 23-24. 24-25 was just simply a projection by promoting each grade level up to the next year, and then inserting pre-K and kinder about the same numbers that we've been at. But you can see we have, out of 1,144 students, we have 92 that are transfer students. Of those, 33 are employees' kids. 11 are early acceptance, which is what we changed our policy to not long ago. And then 48 are true transfers, so those 48 would have been people that were already here as transfers whenever we changed to early enrollment. So to break it down, about 36% of our transfers are employees' kids, 36% are employees' kids, 12% early acceptance, and 52% of our enrollment kids are transfer kids that have been here before we changed the policy. And you just see the next column over, kind of the same thing. Actually, we'd be graduating, I think, 11 transfer kids. So we're looking at 81 total transfer students next year, 38 being employees' kids, 8 being early acceptance, and 35. So you'll see that 48 to 35, and you see the appropriate percentages there. That's just to let you know this is where we stand. This is what the picture looks like right now. The table below is just trying to give the dollar figure. So what we've When we first brought up the topic for this discussion was just letting everyone know, we're trying to explain to everyone that each grade level would have a cap, and that cap would look different for each grade level. So you can see what we've done is try to cap it so that you don't have to hire additional staff. And as you look across the table, you would see the possible revenue it would generate. For instance, if you look at, let's take 8th grade. Currently 101, so we're projecting next year 87, because all that is 7th grade moving to 8th grade, so 87. And if you capped it at 20 students per class, you can see we could accept up to 13 8th graders. Would we have 13 transfers? Probably not, but we could accept 13, still have maintain the student-teacher ratio that we desire for our district. And then you can see at the basic allotment of just over 6,100 kids, or $6,100 per student, you would generate right around $80,000. But more importantly, going over to the last column, you have to think about, they don't pay us by enrollment, they pay us according to average daily attendance. And so then we calculate that, saying they're here, those additional kids here or those additional kids are here 95% of the time, so you're talking about around $76,000. So adding students where we can, where we have in the grade levels where we have room to maintain the student-teacher ratio our district desires, does bring in revenue. And it doesn't cost us any more to turn the lights on in an 8th grade classroom or run a bus because it has 4 or 5 more kids on it, or we don't have to pay that teacher anymore because there might be 1 or more kids in each section. So it does generate revenue. So with that, I don't want to read all these numbers to you. You guys have had this for a while. I'll do my best to answer any questions you may have.
So is the cap based on student ratio?
Yes.
Teacher ratio?
Yes, ma'am.
And there is different per each
It would
grade
look
level?
different for each grade level.
What
Yes.
do we roughly want, 1 to 20?
Yeah,
Is
it's
there-
this column right here, and it says.
The transfer cap per
Yes,
class?
ma'am.
So we set, that's what we set it at, 1 teacher per 18 for kindergarten, roughly.
Well,
is what we're-
yes, ma'am, that's what we're shooting for.
Shooting for,
That's the
yeah.
desire of our community, our district, our board. And when you look at 1 to 20 from probably 6th grade on, that's very, very low for secondary campuses. Most secondary campuses have a student-teacher ratio of 1 to 25 or even higher. But we're talking about setting those limits or those caps so that we try to maintain that 20 to 1 ratio. That's been our target as a district since I arrived and well before I arrived.
So what are your thoughts on accounting for growth? If we were to start accepting transfers, obviously we can't take 16 transfers, for example, that's on here on 2nd grade because we may have 5 2nd graders move in and then we're over those projected numbers. So,
I think in that cap, kind of a soft cap, like going to 2nd grade where it says we could accept 16. Well, we're not going to have 16 transfer in. We may have some move in. So what you're talking about though is if we had people apply to transfer and they're in 2nd grade, we might accept 3 or 4 or 5, but we're also going to leave room there for move-ins. It's the limit on our campus size right now. Once we open the new elementary, relieves pressure at every campus. Because our new elementary has 6 classrooms available per grade level. And we'll remove, or we move 5th grade from the middle school to the new elementary. That creates space there. And then remember, we're finishing up 4 additional classrooms at the high school. So once the elementary opens up, and again, that's 1 more academic year, 1 more academic calendar year. But once that's done, You know, if you get to that, you hire another teacher to maintain the ratio. It's not pack those classrooms full of kids and be done with it.
So what is the expense side to it? Is there a way to compare that? Like, is there an expense allotted per student? I guess that's the piece I was wanting to see the most, and you may not have that right now, but I see where we can generate the revenue based on potentially the max of 63 students. I guess, what is the expense side? Do we have an expense per student that we would?
What's the actual?
Do we have, right?
The increase in just
Sure.
paper and everything.
Everything.
I think though, the expense per student right now, I think probably falls around $12,000 a student. Well, that's what we're spending per student. If you just take our basic expenditure this year is like right at $13 million and divided by the 1144, then you're looking at right around $12,000, a little over $12,000 a student. It's what we're spending, even though the state only sent us just over $6,000 a student. Right. And so what I was saying earlier though is, let's say we just accepted 5 more students, period. To educate those 5 more students doesn't cost us any more than what we're already spending. To run that bus route, it doesn't cost me any more money to run that bus route because it may have 2 or 3 more kids on it. We're still running that route. Now it might have 1 or 2 or 3 more kids on it. To turn the lights on in the building doesn't cost us any more money because there's 3 or 4 or 5 more kids in it. We've already got to turn the lights on. It's going to cost us what it costs us from 8 to 3:30 anyway. It doesn't cost us any more per teacher. The teacher's still getting paid the same salary even though they might have 1 or 2 more kids in their classroom. Does that make sense where I'm going with this?
Yes, I just want to make sure I'm not thinking about this basic. So if our expense is twice the amount of what our revenue is, and adding a new student, if it's 12,000, am I
Think about it.
like, we get 6,100 for a base allotment, I know there's, and then the expense for the base of a student is 12,000. It doesn't make
With
sense.
the 12,000 includes all your fixed costs. So we're saying, so that's your fully loaded, and I'm not arguing one way or the other, I'm just.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It's your fully loaded cost, so whatever you're spending on maintenance and facilities, which doesn't change, right? If you can fit it in the capacity you currently have in the current footprint, there's no incremental cost associated with it. So actually, what would happen is if you added some number of students, whether it's through normal admissions, or it's through, if you decide to open up some limited amount of inter-district transfer, whatever that number is, as long as it doesn't go beyond 63, your average cost per student would come down from 12,000. Right? Because you would really only incrementally, you would incrementally spend, now I wouldn't say it'd be zero. There's probably some paper costs, there's probably some, I don't know, extra water for people to use the bathrooms more. There's probably something. I don't think it's, I don't know, but I wouldn't expect it to be a large number. But as long as you don't, what this says, as long as you don't, and I think about the seats available is capacity for either move-ins, or if you decided to ease up some limited amount of transfers. As long as you don't go through that, then you would see, and thank you for the 95, I wasn't thinking about the 95 because of our screwed up way our state pays for education that is based on how many people are actually there for the day. But that's why it's not really, if I add somebody, it's $12,000. It's not. It's actually zero, or next to zero, if you did that.
I think and I said this at the last meeting, is the added stress on our teachers. So, like, I understand the cap and everything like that, and, you know, yes, okay, second grade, 16 seats available. But one of the great things here is that we do have small teacher to student ratios. And it's, you know, I think benefit of being here. And so the added stress for our teachers of adding, even if it is, we do have to account for growth. And so even if it is 4 more students spread out, that's 1 more. And so I'm also thinking, well, then that would mean also less focus or something on my child, just the added stress on
Sure.
all of that.
But I
The
think
instructional part, everything.
Yeah, because one of the challenges that we have, right, with recruiting teachers is that we can't pay the salaries that other school districts can. So one of the advantages that we do have is that, hey, we might have a pay each month, but man, you can really focus on this group of students. And are we losing some of that benefit?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think though, and again, I can bring that information if we want to continue the conversation. I think that's what's important for our community to understand too. This is just a conversation.
Totally.
Right, and I'm bringing it to the board because it's part of one of my main responsibilities as your superintendent is fiscal responsibility, right? And my understanding, there's only 2 ways to generate more revenue when the legislature doesn't give us new money, which is what the entire state of Texas was anticipating. That's why at least 90% of your districts have a deficit budget this year, because we're all anticipating the legislature giving us part of the $3 billion that was supposed to go towards education and didn't. So I bring this as a conversation because you guys represent this community and you drive me, your CEO, as this is one of the ways to try to generate more revenue because we know we're sitting on a deficit budget. And that's, if I don't bring this up at all, then I haven't done my job on the fiscal side of running a district, right? So what you gotta say is, we can end the conversation tonight, or I can bring back more information. Like, I think we pay as much as, or more, as all the other districts around us, except Prosper and Frisco. So I think our teacher salaries are very competitive. Yes. I think some of the other districts around us already accept transfers. As we heard earlier that no one around us does, I don't think that's accurate. I could bring you information about that.
I'd like to know.
I think some already do, and I think another district is planning on doing it for kind of the same reasons we are. Plus they have a brand new high school they're trying to fill up that they're opening next year. So, that brings added expenses as well when you open a brand new campus. So again, it's simply conversation, and I appreciate you guys giving me your feedback. I mean, that's why we have it on here as communication. So you guys direct me. I can bring you more information, or we can say this is not something we want to discuss anymore. Out of concern for our teachers, we don't want to add any stress to our teachers. We just have to understand that that's one of the ways to try to address our deficit budget, which you guys call on me to address the fiscal side of the district as well. And I'm not doing my job if I don't bring that up. The other way, I hate to even mention because someone will blow that up on social media, but the only other way to do that I know of is a tax ratification election. I don't think that would pass because no one wants to pay more taxes right now. Right. Now as a district, it's my understanding before I got here, and since I've gotten here, our total tax rate has decreased every year. And I think it was doing that before I got here. Now people will find that hard to believe because they're going to say, well, I pay more in taxes. Well, that's not because of your tax rate, it's because of your property values. And we don't set property values. The appraisal district does that. But again, when we pass a TRE, we're just bringing more money into operations to balance our budget, to pay teachers more, so forth, so on. But when you pass a bond, our taxpayers can see where their money's going, hence the construction update tonight. So if you pass a bond, I can see where my extra tax dollars are going. If you pass a TRE, it's going towards salaries, it's going towards balancing the budget, it's going towards operations. Yeah. And I just don't know that we want to even try to attack that as a community. That's the only 2 ways. And so as your superintendent, it's it's my job to bring those two things up if we're staring at a deficit budget. And we're staring at that deficit budget because the state will come off the $3 billion because of politics. I'm just being honest with you.
Is there a way to find out from the city, like households that are getting built right now and households that are being projected to be being built next year, to kind of get I mean, because I know we did a demographic study, you know, bond election. I don't know, just how we have, I don't know if we have that information from the city standpoint.
I don't have it,
How
but
many?
I don't mind reaching out to the city to get it. I mean, that's one of those things where we hope we have that relationship anyway. They're letting us know about new developments or about the number of permits that have been issued. That's something I can find out and bring back to the table too, if we want to continue the conversation.
I think we're,
Go ahead.
no, you tried to start before. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, building, two things actually, building off of what Ms. Marks just brought up.
Sure.
We would also probably need to, would the county have further information? Because there's a lot of housing being built that's outside
Outside the
city.
city limits.
Mm-hmm, and that
Do
are
our best to
larger
find
homes that, you know, would bring more tax revenue, but also more children. And then if we were to continue flushing this out, is there a way to kind of generate something that would show our costs right now and be able to show the numbers that if we add 4 students here and 5 students here or 6 students to this campus, that our costs are going to remain the same and that money would actually be able to be added to the bottom line?
Sure.
Because then, you know, as Mr. Ryder had explained, if we can show that these monies will be actually spent on adding teacher salary or increasing teacher salaries, adding programs, expanding, you know, spending them on students and not other expenses that we're now creating, then it might be more palatable.
Sure.
But right now, I'm hearing a lot of people not happy with that, so I'd be hesitant to.
Do we have a list of people? Do we have a list of people that are like through a waiting list or transfer? I don't even know if that exists. Like, do we have people that are consistently like?
I don't try.
Yes, or do we create? I don't.
We don't have a waiting list. I bet we could generate one. Someone just walked in yesterday and was asking for transfer paperwork. They heard we were opening up to transfers. And again, like, no, we're not. We're having a discussion. And something else I want to be clear about too, Ms. Elson, I know you know this, but you said it, and I know we have people watching at home and in the audience. We have 2 funding sources, our local property taxes and what the state sends us. And if our property taxes go up, which they will because we're adding homes, we're not generating new money. Because when our local property taxes go up, what the state sends us goes down. Because it's always going to be this balance right here. X number of dollars is what you need to educate 1,144 kids. Now you're generating more locally, so we're going to send you less, so you keep it at that balance. And that's important for our community to know as well. I mean, because our local taxes are going to continue to increase because we're building more homes. If we ever add any commercial, we're going to increase tremendously. But all that means is the state's going to send us less because it is a balancing act. So that's why I say when I talk about new money, we need additional funding, and just increasing property values isn't additional funding to the formula.
Yeah, and I just was gonna say, I would love to see what you just talked about. I mean, because I think the only way that I would be comfortable with this is like, this 100% would improve our student success.
Sure.
Where we're at, you know, and I think that's all we all want. And so, yeah, right now I'm just.
No. And guys, please don't misunderstand me. I'm bringing this as a suggestion, as a, hey, we have a deficit budget, and as your superintendent, it's my responsibility to try to address that. And if you guys say no, Then it's no, I'm not upset about it at all. This is
But I'm not hearing anybody say, stop. Bringing information. Bringing information. I've not heard that, but if that isn't a mindset of something, we probably have, not that we're not taking a vote or anything.
no.
We want to make it known, if you don't want to move forward with it, that's a lot of work. It's important work, but it's a lot of work that you have to do to prepare for the next time we get together and talk about this. So if we're not really serious about at least investigating, and I agree with you, Scott, it's your job to look at all opportunities to manage to the budget. It's our job to not dismiss anything out of hand, but to do the homework, all the homework, 100%, right, on both sides of it. That's our job. And so I think what I'm hearing is, yeah, there's more information. One question I do have is, okay, so when would you need to make a decision to actually put it into effect for the new? Because again, if you're talking about there's an ability to increase revenue without impacting student success or putting an overdue, whatever that formula looks like, and say you can get to a reasonable formula. Ideally, you want that at the beginning of the school year because that's your maximum benefit, right? So, assuming you could figure that out, what that is, and maybe it's 5 students, and then you're like, well, is it even worth it? Well, let's just assume we could figure out the formula. When is the date that we would need to make a decision, announce it so that you could actually have it in place where you get the maximum benefit, which would be, I would assume, at the beginning of the school year. Because I think there's a time limit there. Because if we're not going to hit that, then we can still have a conversation about it, but it's a decision to have to make.
Sure. I would say latest maybe June board meeting. I mean, we could come back in May with the discussion, have it up for a vote, and with the vote, you would have to have the next agenda item would be the verbiage of our policy being edited, which, if we decided not to do it, then that next agenda item just, doesn't exist. We could have more conversation. So I think to answer your question, Scott, would be June. We could have more conversation again in May, and then decide, do we even want it on June's agenda or not? Remember, we have a budget workshop scheduled for May 8th, I think.
Right.
So, and again, maybe that workshop is when we can dig into those numbers a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I was going to suggest that because, part of this is also understanding why we anticipate. I mean, we don't know the full story of some of the numbers, right? But we should be able to give some idea of kind of what the budget's looking like. And we should be able to, because again, one thing that is really talked about is, we want to continue to pay our teachers as well as we can. And this is also a way to help fund some of that, right? But I do think, my opinion is that you at least have a conversation in context with the rest of the budget discussion and with some of the information that the other board members have asked for, again, to continue the conversation to make an educated decision as to whether we move forward with something or not. And it sounds like we could probably do that in May, so it sounds like not a stop, but obviously more information needed to determine one way or the other.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Does anybody feel differently that we don't want to continue the conversation?
I think even if we all are leaning towards it doesn't make sense, I think we still owe it to the community that we at least exhaust the attempt to look into it. It's a big deal. And I think we need to at least look into it. To say that, we really looked into that and it didn't work out. I think. So, like, as far as the policies go, how much flexibility or what kind? I know you had said, I think in the last meeting, that we could say, the student has to maintain a 95% attendance record. Are there other things that we can put in there? I mean,
well, we have 2 pieces. So back when we changed our policy to early enrollment, we also added this piece to our District of Innovation. And the reason we added the portion that's in District of Innovation is because Education Code said that you can only review a student's transfer status once a year. So typically you do that, they would transfer in at the beginning of the year and you would review it at the end of the year. In our District of Innovation, we're allowed to review that any point in time, as many times as we want. And don't quote me here because I don't have that policy memorized, but I know it has to do with attendance, has to do with grades, and has to do with behavior. And so at any point in time, if we had, now that we've added that to our policy, at any point in time, we could revoke a student's transfer based on any of those three, and we don't have to wait till the end of the year, which was tremendous for us. And we wanted to do that whenever we opened it up to early enrollment. Because if we allowed someone to come in, things weren't working out, then we'd send them back to their home district. And we could do that with any transfer we have right now. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, for sure. Then what about like, what if you have a family that has 3 kids and they want to be transferred in? 3 different levels, grade levels. 2 of them we have space for, the third one we don't. What do you do?
Well, me personally, up until a couple conversations a couple days ago, I was that you accept all 3 kids, that you take care of the whole family. If our thought is that we don't want one single kid over the ratio, then we don't accept any of the 3, and we refuse the whole family.
So I guess my
I
question
wouldn't
was
split
about
a family.
Yeah, right. But so I guess my question about policy, is that something that we can put in? I mean, we can
I'm
decide
sure.
that.
Absolutely.
Okay. I didn't know if there was like legal, state legal stuff that we couldn't do that, or that was my question.
I mean, I think the policy can be whatever you, I mean, you can't discriminate.
Sure.
Right? But again, it's based on, I would think it would be based on needs, right? Or based on the ability to provide. And, so, and I agree, I mean, you'd like to think, well, again, it comes back to, you gotta balance it, it's not a black and white decision, you gotta balance it against a bunch of different things, but I would understand that situation wouldn't be the ideal situation, so they probably would do it, can't really accommodate right now, and you would accommodate when you could. But I think you can write the policy such that it fits within the needs the capacity you have.
Well, and in that instance, if we did approve 2 of their 3 children, they're choosing, this is a choice that they're making, so then they just are faced with another decision. Do I want to transfer 2 children, or do I, and hope that the third one has a place eventually, or do I want to stay where I am? Because it's a choice either way. So, and it's not, it's kind of a messy situation, I feel like, no matter what you do there. But, very valid, because I'm sure it'll happen.
Yeah.
If we.
And then, lastly, teachers, I think, have we gotten any teacher input on this? I know you brought up teachers. Is there a way that we can get teacher input on this? Because they're the ones that are going to be affected at the end of the day.
Sure. Yeah, we can.
Get
That's
feedback
not a problem.
from them.
Absolutely.
I love teacher and community feedback.
Community
Yeah.
We have heard some comments, but I mean, it does affect our students.
I
So
think
I'd love to see
survey or, I don't even know,
something
if it's
simple.
just something,
Yes, and I mean, if the community says no, then we don't really need a ton of reasons why, because we probably come up with a lot of.
Maybe that's where I'll start.
It's valid, it's valid. And we don't want it to be an us versus them
Right.
mentality. We want everybody to feel like it matters what you say.
Yes.
The challenge is, and everybody that knows me knows that I want to know what the community thinks, and it's huge for me, like, huge. The challenge is a lot of times the community will make decisions, and our community does it, every community does it, without knowing everything, and that's the frustrating. We've got to be able to if we're gonna get community input, I'm all for it. We have to be able to educate the community of all of the scenarios before that we ask for input. Otherwise, they're all gonna come, very defensive, I think, without all of the information.
That's a valid point. We can definitely maybe have some sort of informational post on or put it on our website, and.
I'll do what I can.
I think let's talk some practical decisions, right? Because I agree with you, right? We all need to be educated before we make a decision one way or the other. If we're talking about, you had May, right? To kind of discuss this some more, since you're making a decision in June. I'm not saying that the team can't do it, but they're gonna be pulling information together just so we could even decide whether there's anything that we are interested in even thinking about. Right? So I completely agree with getting feedback from everybody that's impacted. But I would tell you though, my gut tells me that we probably should just, if we're gonna do the research, we do the research knowing we're not gonna do it this year. Because I don't think you have time to do the research. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do the research and shouldn't do the feedback. I'm just saying, I don't think you can do both and even be in a position to get something in place for this year. Just my 2 cents. Now, it could be something you could put in effect mid-year, right? Again, you don't have to, you could do it down the road, and that's fine. Just, I'm just practically, there's a lot of juggling of things, which is the right thing to do. It would push back any, like I was talking about, the maximum benefit, potential maximum benefit, if you decided to do it. And we're going to be so careful on that wording, but I'm not voting for it, right? I'm an information gathering. But if you want max benefit, then you're gonna have to make decisions soon.
Sure.
And if you don't, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just know that it's a probably second half year, if at all, conversation.
Yeah, I was thinking year to year, so this is something that we could, mid-year, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely think it shows fortitude too when it opening it up and to the community. I think people want that, and I think that's it's just a great initiative, getting teacher and parent, just specific to a topic like this that affects everybody. I think it's a great way to show positive intention of we coming together for sure.
Well, and also we have that great Tech Times that Shelley Haley puts out every single month, and she is amazing at encompassing everything she can think of to put in there. We can have a little something in there with education, with maybe a link to click on for more information, because obviously
Or
you can't.
QR code
Or that's
No problem. I'll take care out, and I think it's important. I'm all for feedback too, teacher and community feedback. I agree with what you guys are saying. It's going to be important that we try to educate before we reach out for that feedback.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And school finance makes less sense than school accountability system.
Yeah.
You follow me there?
Yeah.
There are a lot of accountants that don't understand school finance. So there's a lot of half-truths out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of just misunderstanding of school finance. And I will do my best to educate our community on school finance in the simplest of terms. But I think that's step one. And again, so it may not be anytime soon, but we'll get something out there, and then we will ask for teacher and community feedback, because it's important. Right now, if I'm just Joe Dad sitting at home and I see the survey pops up on my phone, well, no, I don't want any more kids in the district with my kids. I moved here because I want a smaller environment. But I don't know all the details behind why we're even having the conversation. So I will do my best to communicate or educate and communicate, and we'll feel like that's gotten out there, then we'll reach out for that feedback. And again, it may be mid-year, it may be next year. That's not something we want to rush into. But again, I not only have a responsibility to educate each and every one of your kids, but also have a responsibility to keep us afloat fiscally. So I've got to find that balance, and that's why I work with USEP and community members to get feedback that helps me make decisions. So,
And don't feel like you're at it alone either. I mean, we're here to help.
oh,
If there's anything
absolutely.
that we can do to get the information out to the community so they have the information to make an informed decision or provide informed feedback, we're here, I mean, we can help.
Absolutely. And that's why you're going to make our video for us, Jim. Yeah.
He totally would. Looks like of all people, he would.
I think he was just looking to see what his backdrop was.
It's like, you're gonna give me the information,
No,
right?
we'll get that out.
Can
And again,
I share something with the board on some
Yeah,
funding? You know,
Yeah.
kind of state finance, school finance, kind of the 5 myths and stuff. I don't know if anybody thought it was useful or shared it.
Yeah.
But that is how the board can, again, just getting the information out there, letting people make their own mind up and get the information out there. So hopefully you found that useful or could pass that along, or, you know, go find some others. Because there's good information out there, but yeah, I'm with you. School finance, I mean, been here 9 years on this thing, I feel a little bit better than I did when I first started.
I've been here a year. It's been the hardest part.
it's difficult.
well, and the article Scott's referring to is an amazing article. It is factual. Does it appear political? It does. But guys, I have to be honest with you. School finance right now is being held hostage by politics and politicians. So if you share that article and someone thinks, well, it sounds like you're getting into politics, that is the facts about school finance right now in the state of Texas. It's a political game, and our teachers and our students are the ones that are losing. Remember when we gave that 5% raise to our employees last summer, we did it as we were smiling about, well, we're in the legislative session. There's no way that will give us new money. Well, guess what? They didn't give us any new money.
Dr. Harris said it too.
Well,
He did.
he did, and we also said, let's not bank on that, and we still decided to give.
Right.
So, we
We'll make it work.
We made the decisions we need to make to take care of staff, and we'll find ways to get through it.
We will make it work. I'm not concerned about that.
No, it's important to take care of the teachers.
Thank y'all. Great conversation. I appreciate your feedback. Moving on to item 5B, upcoming events and meeting dates. That's on page 1 of your binder. May 8th again, budget workshop. We have board meeting on the 20th, graduation on the 23rd. We'll turn around, board meeting June 13th, and then have another workshop on the 25th, which I believe we're going to be doing some goal writing in that. So those are there. I think I've sent all of those calendar invites, but I'll double check tomorrow to make sure you receive them.
And just a quick plug reminder for SLI from June 19th to the 22nd, and the, School Board University is available June 17th, yes. So we can converse and try to all meet at one of those, that'd be great.
Thank you. That's all for superintendent report.
So I am now required to update and read about our continuing education from May of 2023 through April of 2024 in accordance with the provisions of the Texas Education Code, Section 5, subsection 11.159B. A trustee must complete any training required by the State Board of Education. The minutes of the last regular meeting of the Board of Trustees held before an election of trustees must reflect whether each trustee has met or is deficient in meeting the training required for the trustee as of the first anniversary of the date of the trustee's election or appointment. If the minutes reflect that a trustee is deficient, the district shall post the minutes on the district's internet website within 10 business days of the meeting and maintain the posting until the trustee meets the requirements. Also, according to BBD Legal, the board president shall distribute the framework for governance leadership annually to all current board members and the superintendent. You will find a copy of that information in your binders. The following board members have met or exceeded the required hours of continuing education: Mrs. Natalie Bernard, Mrs. Shelley Hales, Dr. Gary Harris, Mr. Gabe Johnson, Mrs. Lisa Marks, Mr. Scott Meyerdirk, and Mr. Jim Scano. All board members completed the special training requirement for legislative update to the Texas Education Code. This training requirement is to be completed after each legislative session. Team building, team of 8 training required 3 hours annually and required 5 hours annually of additional continuing education. New members completed all first-year required trainings. The following board members have not met the required hours of continuing education. None. Yes. It was. And then I think we're on to an update from Mr. Meyerdirk on Region 10 training.
You know, we had a good conversation on this, so I'll be kind of brief this week. Since we're talking about training, I went to Region 10, kind of had an all-day session a couple Saturdays ago, and got to spend some time. I think I did about 4 hours there that day. It was good. It was good. Some of it was a little bit of a rehash of the legislative update, but it was kind of what to look forward and what they're anticipating coming up. But what I found interesting, what I was talking to Shelley about was there was a session on AI and how to deal with AI in education, and that although AI is seen to be one of the will be one of the kind of game-changing leading technologies for educators, and it will help them more effectively tailor education for their students depending on their needs, and that it will help greatly in that. It's also there's an opportunity for abuse, and so and just nothing really. The eye-opening thing for me was the lawyer that was doing the training said, we did a search of all the statutes, education statutes, and there are none specifically around AI in the education space. There are some governmental statutes. It's relatively early on, but it's going very, very quickly. So, their comment was make it a big part of your discussions when you talk about potential policy updates, policy goals, that find that you probably, whoever is your IT person or who is your technology person in your district today is not your AI expert. They may be, but that you probably have some teachers there. You probably have plenty of kids who know more about AI than some of the staff. But the message was there's not a lot of good information, there's not a lot of good precedent out there right now in education around how to write policy and manage this, but it's coming quickly. And so it was really, I was talking to Shelley, it's like, we need to be thinking about that, as part of, we kind of go into this summer, and talking about, the other thing they talked about, we spent time on was periodically do your board policy update, right? We did that kind of a full kind of dig into it last year?
We did, yeah, pretty recently. We made a few.
And they got to do that, at least every other year. And in the off years, kind of do more of a cursory, is anything new that's come up. But as we do that, we should just get that into kind of the normal rhythm of the board, kind of hygiene, but also talk about any kind of policies that may be lacking or that we just haven't addressed as a district. And again, there were districts there from Richardson and Dallas and all of Region 10, and nobody, in talking to the other board members, and there were some superintendents there as well, that nobody has a good handle on this yet, but that it should be something we put very high on the list. Now, we just got off a budget conversation, we start talking about, well, where do we go get an AI expert? Or how do we pay an AI expert to help us? I mean, that's an expense we don't have today, but it's something that we said, you know, we need to, all districts are trying to figure out how to get ahead of it, some of that. Trying to think what else was. That was the big one. We spent a little time talking about, like I said, the board policy updates, and really taking the time to go through it very detailed and think about situations that you don't anticipate, but that could come up. And be very prescriptive about what happens when, because that provides clarity and aligns expectations amongst longstanding board members and new board members. And we've had a good turnover on the board, very beneficial to the board, and it's just don't assume things. You know, people will be able to come to the same understanding or expectation. So that was beneficial, just as a normal course of board hygiene. So that was really. I know we want to talk about the AI stuff. But was there something else we talked about that I kind of gave you an update?
That was the big one for me, because I felt like in the next year or two, that could be a bigger issue. I mean, I think we've all heard instances of it being on our campuses now, both positive and negative instances of it. So if it becomes an issue, we need to have a framework. You know, this is how we're going to address it. So yeah, thank you.
And it could be, they talked a little bit about this, and Scott, I don't know, you know, what Region 10 was talking about there, and we're trying to be putting some guidance out, or at least some opportunities, or some training, or development for the training center for teachers, right? As a way to tap into some of the positive use cases, and also to, you know, kind of avoid some of the challenges there. So I know you talked to Region 10 often, but it'd be good to stay on top of that, whatever they're providing, and that could be good development for some of our teachers as well.
We've got a guy in the community that I know who is an expert, travels around the world discussing AI stuff. And he has kids in the school district, and he spoke to me last year about, he's like, hey, anything I can do to help. So he is a great resource if we want somebody to just come in and just presents, maybe some things we should be thinking about. We've got a guy.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. I'll be able to keep you.
Good.
And let's see, the TechStop report. So I had sent everybody that TechStop report. BNSF is, you know, still knocking on our door. And so I just feel like, and I know that we all feel like it's very important to stay abreast of what's going on in our community and to open lines of communication. I don't really think there's anything for us to do at this point, other than be aware in the sense that, you know, it will affect all of our students and our district. And if in the future there is something that we need to take action on, then we already have versed ourselves in what's going on.
I think that was started on maybe page 67. Yeah, 67.
Yeah, this is
It's very good information. Yes.
Yes, I understand that there's continuing reports being developed, so if I see something further, I'll share, and all of you please do the same thing. Okay. And then, moving on, we are at the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes from March 21st, 2024 Tabor hearing, March 21st of 2024 regular meeting, and March 27th, 2024 board workshop, the bills for GISD and GCSEC, and the GCSEC budget amendment. Does anyone wish to pull any items from the consent agenda?
I'd like to hold previous month's bills because I have to abstain.
Okay. Yes.
Or check to.
Okay. We may not be able to vote on those. No, we don't know what wrong or not.
Well, we pull it, though.
Yeah, we can pull those, but we
Yeah.
just can't vote on that.
Yeah.
what you have to spend. Which is fine. Just-
Yeah. Push that to next week. Okay, so pulling the bills for GISD, but we can leave the bills for GCSEC, the co-op?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so just pulling the bills for GISD. Any other items need to be pulled? Any discussion on them? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda minus the bills for GISD as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? And any opposed?
So Ms. Marks, did you second?
She seconded.
Thank you, Owen. Thank you.
I think actually, technically, since we pulled this, we would have to
They need to have a motion
basically
to
ask for a
postpone.
motion, and without a motion, ask for like a motion, and then to come back and follow on the GIS.
Okay.
So
Can
we
I ask for a
you
motion?
ask for a motion, and then
Okay, is there a motion to approve the bills for GISD? No motion. Okay, and the board will consider, discuss, and/or take appropriate action regarding considering approval to change the fiscal year from September 1st through August 31st to July 1st through June 30th, beginning with the 2025-2026 school year.
So this is an item that came up in our first finance committee meeting, which we have a former school finance person on there that's a parent and one that's currently a finance person in another district that's a parent. And this was brought up, and several districts, I think, did it several years ago. But what it would do by changing our fiscal year from, we always just say it's a September 1 fiscal year to a July 1 fiscal year. When we make that change, we will get a decent bump in our fund balance, our savings, if you will. So essentially the way it works is when we pass a budget this coming August for the year 24-25, you're gonna pass a 12-month budget. But we're telling TEA, okay, 25-26, we're gonna have a July 1 budget. And so we would start 25-26, July 1. So that's where that bump in your fund balance is coming from, is we've essentially overlapped two budgets. And the true finances from July, August, and on will be covered by the new budget. It wouldn't be in that 12-month budget that we passed, if that makes sense. I'm not an accountant or a mathematician, but trying to put it in terms that make sense, because for a while I didn't understand where it was coming from.
12 months income and 9 months.
Even better, makes more sense than what I said. And again, our fund balance is a concern. We need to get it where it needs to be for our first rating, which is our fiscal accountability system. And that's one of our goals, is trying to build that fund balance. Even more important, if in a couple of years you're going to be talking about passing another bond to build high school, well, our first rating affects, if you will, our credit rating. So it's important to start building that fund balance. It's also important to build your fund balance, because what people don't understand, we talked about, we receive our local property taxes and we receive funding from the state. Well, the state only sends you 3 checks a year. So they send you one in September and October, and then you have to make it all the way back around to August to get your 3rd check for that fiscal year. So if you put that in terms of your personal finances, imagine making it a year with 3 paydays. So that's where it's important to have money in your fund balance, because you're covering yourself until you get that money from the state. Now again, our local property taxes come in about the middle of the year. starting November, December, January is probably the biggest time, January, February, and then it tapers off. So we're getting money in the middle of the year from our local property taxes, but essentially, we have to pay bills when we don't have revenue coming in on a monthly basis, like you would imagine with your income. So that's why fund balance is important as well. So anyway, I need your approval to change our fiscal year from September 1 budget to a July 1 budget. And that would not take place until July of next year, July of 25. We have to notify TEA a year in advance, which means instead of getting our first check in August for that fiscal year, we would get our first check in July.
The other thing that probably is, we're at the beginning of the year, like right now, close out our budget, I have to cut off purchasing like in April. Well, they don't really, some of them don't know if you're getting, which I mean, there's some give and take in that. But for the majority, they have to be prepared to start school in September with, they don't have any money until September 1st. Like they would have money, we have it in July, so they'd be able to start spending their campus budgets before school actually started. So, it's a benefit for them.
Are there any negatives to it? Anything that we need to watch out for?
We just need to watch, my understanding, watch out for approvals on that following year. But I think that was the only key item that they said, make sure you're paying attention to as your accruals for that next year. Actually, that was one of the positives, is that many people appreciated being able to spend funds to prepare for the start of the school year, instead of we start school in August and we're telling people, well, our budget cycle doesn't start till September 1, so you work 3/4 of August before you really, I mean, we have money there, but it's not coming from,
It's okay.
it's kind of, yeah.
I did a little, I think there's like 300, according to TEA's website, there's 316 districts that do it, have done it, and a lot of them were 10, 15 years ago, some of them, Collinsville, Allen, Salina, several districts around here, all over the state. The only thing I saw was, and it's not really negative, I think it's just something you have to be prepared for, is it's different than how you've been operating.
Yeah.
And you've got to stay on it in terms of, there'll be a new rhythm, and there will be a new, it's just something different, right? Especially when you go through the first time.
Budget, like when we're obviously doing the budget, there's a lot of stuff, so we won't have our, I think this was a bigger factor back before they started telling us what our tax rate could be, but we won't know, so, which you don't adopt your tax rate, you adopt your tax rate still in August like you normally do, but we have to adopt a budget before.
Before then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to, anticipate where you think the tax rate's going to be, and to set your budget until it actually gets set, and then you have to amend it based upon whatever the state finally decides. So that, again, what I read and what I remember from the finance committee conversations with the prior CFO from Allen High School and the current CFO from up the road, was also just a different operating procedure you have to kind of to manage through, and then a little bit of reporting differences around
Your timing, like
your
our
time
audit,
and your audit,
obviously,
right?
2 months.
Yeah, and your audit.
Is there something that helps you keep track of the accruals?
I think we finally have gotten everything in a sender to where Heidi's been good about trying to make sure everything's put in payroll-wise correctly, so it will
track that?
Track it. When I first got here, which Region 10 had they let me know, but things weren't being entered into a sender correctly. So we weren't using our program how we could have, so we get to the end of the year and the auditor would fix it, but
Okay. So we're headed back now. Great, thank you.
Longer than there, because that's our biggest.
Right. And the only other thing was, it's a one-time.
It's a one-time.
One-time benefit to fund balance, it's not a, okay. Yeah, but it is you get to count 3 additional months of revenue that you don't have expenses, so.
Yeah.
It allows you to adjust that one time, and then it's back to normal the second one.
I think my favorite thing about it might be the, ease up on the teachers. Makes the beginning of their year a little easier if they can spend some money to prepare their classrooms and.
Well, it helps with like board purchase and there.
Yeah.
True.
But and it's a little less, I mean, it's been our meetings, I have a lot of people go, school finance used to let you do this thing where you would just ask to be billed in September.
Right.
Fall, they called it fall billing. But there's a law, like if you receive it before September 1st,
Yeah.
you have to pay for it, so everybody's hard getting caught up on that, so.
Yeah.
They don't do fall billing anymore.
Yeah.
Any further questions? Is there a motion to approve changing the fiscal year beginning 2025-2026 school year?
I'll make a motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. With that, the board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.072, to discuss land, Section 551.074 to discuss personnel, and Section 551.076 to discuss safety. And I show the time as 7:27.
Read your books.
Sure.